Todd Monken is one of the most underrated coaches in college football. One of the best coordinators in college football, if you ask me, and I don't think he gets enough recognition for how good of a job he's done the last couple of years. Given all the circumstances, 2020 is kind of a throwaway year for Georgia football, in my opinion. But last season, helped as one of the leaders of the program lead the Bulldogs to a national title game. And they weren't talked about. Kirby Smart talked about that the other day on the Paul Feinbaum show, how the offense for Georgia just wasn't talked about that much. And it was because of how special Georgia's defense was. But Georgia's offense was really, really good this year. And Todd Monken's a big reason why they did that. Ryan Curley from Dog Post here talking about Todd Monken, talking about Stetson Bennett, talking about the Georgia Bulldogs. As always, make sure you're checking out DAWGSTRUCTION. Link down below. Before I get into it, you know what? I will see to it that Todd Monken has a photo in the next book if they win another national championship. I will see to it. Make sure you're checking that out with the link down below. 2021 national champions. Georgia averages almost 40 points per game. They're putting up almost 200 yards rushing a game and a little over 250 yards passing a game. That was good for 443 yards of total offense per game. That's really good. You had a top 10 offense for sure. There were only a few offenses last year that were putting up over 40 a game. Alabama was in that conversation. Of course, Ohio State was in that conversation. Some schools that aren't quite as good were in that conversation. And Georgia was dominant, and they didn't really struggle to score except for against Clemson. And that was, I don't even look at that Georgia team as the same Georgia team that we saw at the end of the year. But Clemson's when they struggled to score. JT Daniels was obviously not in the best shape health-wise. He wasn't where he needed to be, and that's ultimately why Stetson Bennett was the quarterback for most of the year and led them to the national championship. But let's look at it. Let's be real about Stetson Bennett for a second. He is the starting quarterback for Georgia. He is a good quarterback, and he is a winner. But he is not the most talented quarterback. He's not the fastest on Georgia's roster. He doesn't have the biggest arm on Georgia's roster. And he doesn't have the best accuracy on Georgia's roster. But he does have that moxie, and he is a leader, and he is seasoned, and he is the starting quarterback for Georgia, whether you like it or not. And Todd Monken put him in position to look really good, because I don't know what everyone else was watching last year, but Stetson Bennett looked like a really great college quarterback. Not elite. There were definitely people better than him, but he was great in a lot of ways. And he definitely had bad moments. He had bad moments in the national championship game. He had a bad SEC championship. I didn't think he played well against Charleston Southern. I didn't think he played amazing against Missouri. He had a bad interception against South Carolina, but he also did a lot of things that made up for that, and Todd Monken did a fantastic job of reshaping the offense around Stetson Bennett when JT Daniels was kind of out of the picture. He designed an offense that Stetson Bennett could succeed in, and it was very different from the offense that JT Daniels was succeeding in, and you saw the difference. The South Carolina game is super important in this conversation because of how good of a job and how they really just lit it up through the air with JT Daniels. Todd Monken let JT Daniels have that. But with Stetson, it was a lot more rollouts, more play action, allowed Stetson to use his legs in situations he needed to, a little bit more creative running and everything like that. He did a really great job of making sure that the plays out there were catered toward what Stetson was good at. Those intermediate throws, some throws on the run, and a lot of that was Todd Monken, and I don't think he's been given his due credit for how good he was last season, and at least by the media. I think in the program, the quarterbacks and Kirby Smart will tell you how important Monken is, and I know the players trusted Monken last year. James Cook, I go back to that Orange Bowl interview with James Cook after the game, and I remember him being confused as to why Monken would allow Kenny McIntosh to throw that throw the ball on that trick play, on that reverse trick play that ended up being a touchdown to A.D. Mitchell. And James Cook, he was confused because Kenny McIntosh wasn't doing well all week throwing the ball, but it was Monken who had the trust in McIntosh to make the play, Monken who designed the play, and Cook ultimately talked about how they trusted Coach Monken to make the right calls. And great coordinators get hired as head coaches. I don't know if that's what Todd Monken wants. I know that Todd Monken was a pretty good NFL offensive coordinator, but I think that Georgia and Kirby Smart should want him to stick around for a while because he is much better than what Jim Chaney was and what James Coley was for Georgia. What they were. Todd Monken has been much better than those two guys. And if you're Georgia, you really want him to stick around because, yes, Georgia had an elite defense and a really just elite team in general. And I think they're going to have an elite team again. But what Todd Monken did as offensive coordinator should not go overlooked. I think it's really special. I think he's one of the best offensive coordinators in the country. And he will get that recognition from coaching positions because there's going to be people that want to hire him as a head coach. And we've seen with Kirby Smart, we've seen with Nick Saban, these assistants, they don't necessarily stick around forever. So you should be very happy that Todd Monken is on the staff for now and hopefully for a longer time in the future as Georgia's offensive coordinator because he did a really good job and I think he's going to do even better in 2022. Dawgpost.com. Make sure you're checking out DAWGSTRUCTION down below. Thanks, guys.